Good afternoon. Welcome to the Fireside Chat at the SDG Pavilion at COP27 in Egypt. My name is Minoru Takada at the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs. I'm delighted to introduce and welcome Ms. Angela Wilkinson, the Secretary General and the CEO of the World Energy Council. This is the largest network of many organizations, industry across the world. So we really look forward to having your perspective today, Angela.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here with the DESA. I'm even more delighted that it's not actually a fire that we're beside.
We could have some fire as well. Angela, we are at the Conference of Parties of United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And of course, energy cuts across so many things related to climate. Now, there are obviously, here, everybody is sort of in the brains here. Something is happening in the air here. On one hand, we are in a deep global crisis, particularly energy crisis, right? We have to do something about it. That's everybody thinks about it. On the other hand, we are here at the COP to talk about climate action to address climate emergency. You can see that youth, activists, children, everybody is marching and rightly so demanding immediate scaled up action. From our energy community side, what can we do to address both challenges at the same time?
Well, actually, there are always three challenges at the table: climate security, human development, and energy security. And for the last 20 years, we have been developing tools and frameworks that enable people to think about how they manage energy transition and additions by managing energy security, affordability and equity, and environmental sustainability. And what the recent crisis show us is we need to keep evolving that framework and make it practical at all levels of society.
Very good. Maybe you can delve into a little bit in details on those things, right? So for example, in Europe, of course, in the normal days, people shouldn't have to be worried about energy situations. If I'm just sort of as a citizen, at home, I have electricity. When it is so hot, I can just put the air conditioner on. When it is so cool, of course, we'll put the heat on. And then everything is sort of perfectly organized. Not in this emergency situation, obviously. But if you go to developing countries, in a very, small developing countries, obviously their situation is dramatically different when it comes to energy. I lived in Africa for a couple of years, and then I lived in a village without electricity for 3 years. So the people who live that kind of situation have a very different perspective on those things. So your sort of concept that you laid out, would that be sort of helpful in both situations? And then maybe you can describe a little bit more about it.
So what's happened is we're experiencing the world's first demand-driven global energy shock, which is different to the 1970s energy shock. And I think Europe has, in some ways, been humbled. It's starting to understand and experience what is happening in many other parts of the world when you don't have reliable access to affordable energy every day. So hopefully this will bring together a sharing of experiences and will create more understanding about how we manage these challenges together. And whilst we're at COP and it's all about the negotiation, our organization is really about how do we move from the top of summits, 45,000 feet, talking about all the money and technology, down into the rich, diverse valleys where actually the seeds of any future are planted and grown. So we talk about not terawatt hours of electricity and not gigatons of carbon and not the big numbers like that. We talk about how do we as a community of practice enable hundreds of thousands of smaller place-based energy transitions which are clean and just and give us an outcome which is not globally clean and locally dirty, but globally clean, climate neutral, and locally vibrant.
This is very, very interesting. I was looking at your website, and then this sort of term called humanizing energy. This sort of pops up a little bit. And this is exactly what you started talking about. It is, hundreds of thousands sort of actors in their own way be able to do it. So I'm curious about it. Maybe we can go a little deeper on that one.
So you can look at, on our website, you can look at the partnership we've been having with BBC Storyworks to get stories from diverse communities and cities about the place-based energy transitions and additions that they're involved in. How does the community benefit? What's involved? Who does what? And what we learn from these stories is this process takes decades. I know we have a great urgency, but there's no magic here. We can't achieve energy transitions or additions, build new systems overnight or all at once. What we can do is mobilize billions more people to understand their role, to understand their choices, and to play their parts. And that's what we mean by humanizing.
I see. Now, you obviously you represent sort of the industry, right? So, or business. How do you describe you?
So I would say we're the world's first, I think, multi-stakeholder platform.
Oh, multi-stakeholder platform.
All parts of the energy ecosystem, old and new. We bring together all the resources, renewables, hydrogen, electrification, responsible oil and gas, because we need to get to responsible oil and gas. And we bring together the broader aspects, investors, governments, civil society. And we've learned through our history, in 1930, we learned that energy is connected to equity. In the 1980s, we learned energy is connected to planetary health. And today, we're all relearning that energy is connected to security and resilience. And so we've always been about connecting the dots between the challenges and between all the levels of society that need to be engaged.
This is sounding a little UN-ish, a little bit to me. And, I'm really delighted to have the oldest global multi-stakeholder network of energy community is actually sort of sounding closer to what we are preaching. So, and then I'm very happy about it. But maybe you can tell us a little bit, because your network is so large, right? Both in developed countries and developing countries. How do your network members see current situation? Are they seeing the situation a little sort of down, or they see that this one is sort of actually opportunity to move into the sort of, are they really sort of, what's the sort of general feeling?
Okay, so we've always existed to help diverse regions and communities lead with and learn from each other. And if I just go through three of the things that we've done this year, in January of this year, we launched the annual World Energy Issues Monitor. We survey across the entire leadership spectrum in all countries. And we've released a report that was called Energy in Uproar. We've been tracking since 2016 commodity price rises as a concern, but they jumped 12-fold in uncertainty since last year. We've been warning about systematic underinvestment in energy for decades, right? On top of that, we've had the COVID crisis, and we learned from that resilience extends to people and communities, not just hard assets. In April, we took a new pulse after the invasion of Ukraine and the war to say, what's the situation now? We found people were becoming more positive about joining the climate and energy security agendas together. We resurveyed in August and found that the sentiment had flipped, that actually the cost of living crisis, which is risking a cost of lives crisis, had started to create real concerns about the ability to accelerate decarbonisation without destabilizing societies. So we've started to step up into that space to try and bring together and share the lessons and learnings across countries so that we don't keep swinging from one crisis to another, and we can move not just with commitments, ever bigger ambitions, but that we can mobilize the bottom-up response and action that's really necessary.
This is a great service that you're doing for the world, because you're kind of in a way predicting what might be happening based on the really the feeling as it stands now, and trying to sort of have a little more sort of the taking early measures to prevent and take advantage of the current situation moving forward. Lastly, there's going to be World Energy Congress to come next year. What's the expectation for this particular Congress?
So the World Energy Congress will be the 4th to 7th of December in Rotterdam, and it's themed Redesigning Energy for People and Planet. And we will do as we've always done. We'll try and bring the best of all regions and the best of all parts of society to the table. It's very important that we understand there are multiple energy transitions and additions in progress. No one size fits all. We say that so quickly, but actually, what does it mean in practice? And how do we learn across and by engaging with that diversity? So at World Energy Congress, we showcase. We won't be doing a stock take of global energy, of climate change emissions. We'll be doing a stock take of clean and just energy transitions. How far have we progressed? What are we learning from diverse regions who have different stories for energy transition and addition? How do we not reinvent the policy wheel? And how do we move further together, faster, fairly forward?
This is a very unique timing as well, in that next year is going to be the midpoint of SDGs, and there will be a review, official review by the UN on the progress toward SDG 7 achievement. And in 2024, the UN General Assembly is currently considering to have a global stock take of SDG 7 as well. So your Congress comes at the really right timing from UN perspective as well. So maybe something that we could work together as well.
I would be delighted. This is the COP27. For me, it's signaling the inclusive implementation challenges. We've been working on those for 100 years, and we're very happy to lead with and learn with everybody else in that space.
Well, Angela Wilkinson, thank you so much for participating in this Fireside Chat. We really enjoyed the conversation very much.
A real pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the Fireside Chat. This is the end of this Fireside Chat. I hope you can stick around next couple of days. Thank you very much.